Okay, good day everybody. Welcome once more. Today I want us to start to just take everything in Java so that we can be able to understand what exactly we're talking about when we talk about Java programming. Where does it come from, and where is it going to, and where is it going to help us as maybe programmers or as developers of software or code developers, right? So I want us to start from the beginning. As you can see, maybe the premiere is going to be a bit long, but then we are going to be taking it maybe bit by bit, so that everyone is going to understand exactly what exactly Java is and where Java is going to, right? So maybe without any waste of time, let me just jump into our objectives, right? I want to take you from basics, basically from beginner, somebody who is new into programming and somebody who is new even into computers. Somebody is going to take in a computer just now and then start programming. So which means that we are going to be using Google at some time or at some point during our lesson for today, because we need to be able to see how do programmers come about starting up from scratch, starting a software and then coding it up to the finish point, right? So we are going to use a Google for that. It's at some point, but then without maybe any further delay, let me start from the beginning. What is a computer? We need to know what's a computer and how does it relate to programming, and then how does Java relate to both of them, right? So we say a computer, it's any electronic device that can be programmed. I think you can recall, if maybe you didn't see my previous tutorials where I am defining computers and the introduction or the basics of computers. You can watch them. I am going to share the link over there on top there, the link where we are going to be explaining details about computers. But as you can understand, today's lesson is about Java and it's about programming, hands-on programming. So I'm just going to be defining or explaining things in here, right here, and then what we are going to be doing, then we are going to go into the programming space where we are going to do hands-on programming. I hope that you have maybe your computer next to you or something or somewhere that you're going to be using. You can code even in tablets or wherever, but then it is better coding in your laptop or in your desktop computers. But I think you have somewhere you are going to be doing a practice. So I was saying a computer is an electronic device that can be programmed. It takes instructions as software. It takes in data as through instructions and then processes that data and gives us output or information as output. That's a computer. It takes in data through instructions which are called programs, right? Processes that data and gives us information as output. That is what we call a computer. Any device that can be that can be able to do that, we call it a computer, right? And then what is programming? Programming is the art of telling the computer what to do, or is the process of telling the computer what to do. When you want to call your computer to call your friend, you are going to program it, right? So that it can be able to call your friend. When you want your computer to like maybe send a message, or when you want your computer maybe to send maybe another application to somebody, or to send a file to somebody, or maybe to send people to space, because computers can even do that. If you want your computers to send people to space, you can program it to do that. So that is what we call programming, right? It's the art of telling the computer what you want to do. If you want your computer to do anything for you, you are going to tell it, and that process we call it programming, right? Excuse me. So now, programming languages. Then when we talk about programming, we have to talk about what we call programming languages, because nowadays we have the programming career or the programming industry has evolved into having programming languages, right? So programming languages are those let me say are those languages, or those are the scripts that we write, the structures that we write in order for us to communicate with the computer, so that the computer can be able to do whatever we want it to do. Those are what we call programming languages. We basically have a variety of programming language. In fact, it depends on what you want to do. The programming languages out there, they are meant, or they've been developed in such a way that they vary in what you as a user want to implement or want to do. For example, if you want to create a desktop application, you might want to use a different language compared to maybe a web application. Some of those languages, they can combine that, but some of those languages, they can do it differently. You will need maybe a different language for a web application as compared to maybe a desktop application. Even maybe sometimes you want to create let me say a mobile application, you need a different language compared to maybe a desktop application. I think you understand. So programming languages, maybe to brief you with their history. Their history goes back to what we call assembly languages. Those languages, I think most of you will remember that when programming started, or as it is advertised today, it is advertised with this with two characters, the ones and zeros. You usually see programmers, maybe if you watch movies or if you watch programming tutorials, anyone who is advertising programming, he'll be typing ones and zeros. Or those people who we call hackers, they'll be typing ones and zeros, because programming dates back from there, right? So that's what is happening. Programming languages started there. We had only one language, which is the language of a binary language, which is the ones and zeros, which we call binary language, in which even today the computers understand that language. But the problem with it is we as programmers are humans, we are not computers. So it is writing ones and zeros to come up with a simple program used to take so much time, such that the developers then decided to sit down and come up with a translation of the ones and zeros, so that we, as we understand words, text like this one, this is a text, right? So we tried to come up with something like that could be understandable to us as programmers. I think you understand that. That is when we came up with languages like assembly languages, which or low-level languages, which were languages that could that were not like directly ones and zeros, but they were translating to ones and zeros, so that the computer could be able to understand what we are trying to communicate with it, right? Because only the computer understands only the ones and zeros. Even today, even the languages that we're using today, or when they get into the computer, into the processor of the computer, they are transferred or they are transformed into ones and zeros. They change into ones and zeros through a process that we are going to look maybe later on in this class. What's that process which changes this text that we write, this thing that we write in here, like this one, is going to change into ones and zeros, so that the computer can understand it. And then backwards, when the computer wants to communicate back to us, it is going to change it from it is communicating in ones and zeros, but then it is going to change those ones and zeros into text like this, so that we can be able to understand what the computer is saying to us. I think you are understanding now. So that is the binary language, which translated later on from binary into assembly languages, which those languages which we called low-level languages, right? The low-level languages were languages that were close to the ones and zeros, but then they were not ones and zeros. We had characters in them. And then from those low-level languages, we then developed higher level programming languages, which are languages that a human will be able to see or will be able to read, right? Or will be able to see this word, what does this word says, what does this word says, right? Those languages, they were then which then came up with the programming languages, which we call Java. That is when Java came out, right? When we started having high-level languages. High-level languages are the languages that we understand, or are the languages that have this text that we can understand. This word is programming, this one is programming, or this word is language, or this word is whatever, it's applications uses or whatever. So that is when Java came into place. I think you're understanding it now. We said it started back where everything was ones and zeros. Programmers used to program in ones and zeros, but then that used to take a lot of time, and it was tedious, right? And then they had to come up with something that a human could understand better, and then they came up with the low-level languages. And from those low-level languages, we came up with high-level languages. The high-level languages are the languages that we can understand directly, even though you do not know how to program, but you can understand what is written there because it is written maybe in English or in your own language, right? You can see this is a function, it is written function, or this is a method, it is written method. That is what we call a high-level programming language. So Java then becomes what we call in the high-level programming language. What exactly a high-level programming language? I've just said it is a language that you can understand as a human when typing or when programming or when writing in software, right? So let us look into uses of this Java. As I said, we have a number of, or maybe let's start with Java because some people can misunderstand this. Java is not just the only programming language out there, right? So we have a number of programming languages from C. If you can, we can go to Google. Let me just maybe try to go to Google. Let me search in google.com, something like this, so that you can be able to understand or to see maybe the other types of programming languages. How can I search it? I can just say programming languages. How do you write programming languages? And then we are going to see maybe from Wikipedia or something else. Let us look into, do they have a list? I want a list. I just want a list so that I can be able to, yes, these are some of the, let us look into this link, right? So these are some of the programming languages that we have as programmers. As I was saying, Java is one of the programming languages that we have out there, right? We have a number of programming languages out there, including HTML for web development. We have JavaScript. We have PHP for web development. We have even JSP, which is part of Java. We have C, C++, we have C#. A number of them you can just go to quickly and check them out so that you can see how many languages do we have up there, right? But then let us look into the uses of Java. Where exactly do we use Java, or how exactly are we going to be using this Java programming language? As we have said, that Java is a programming language that is used to create software. Right, we know that it is used to create software. But then, what kind or what type of software do we create or do we use Java for? Okay, well, let us start from the beginning. We said Java is a high-level programming language, right? It is dynamic, basically, meaning that it can be able to be used in a different environments, right? Because we say Java is cross-platform. You can create software that is going to run on Windows systems or Windows machines. You can create software that is going to run in Mac OS systems. You can also create software that is going to run in Linux systems, right? So it it depends on whatever application or in whatever software that you are going to be creating. Java is cross-platform, and you can find that when you search on Google if you want the details. But then this class is all about hands-on programming, right? We wanted to do code. We wanted to be doing code more than this theory part of this. So I'm just introducing these things, and then after this we are going to jump into the coding part, right? So I said Java can be used in creating mobile applications. Java can be used in creating web applications. Java can be used in creating desktop applications. Java can also be used in creating a number of other applications, maybe a number of other applications out there. Anything that you can think of, Java can be used, because it is as I speak, it is being improved. The development team of the Java programming language, they keep on improving the language, so you can be able to implement almost a number of things when it comes to software, even embedded softwares, a number of softwares. So then now let us talk about what we call, how do we then write Java? How do we then reach to the stage in where we are going to be able to write Java? We need some tools for us to be able to write Java. Let us look into Google. I want us to look into this Google. So maybe I will have to close this one because this one has the list, and then let us just go to google.com. For us to be able to write Java, we need to have a number of tools. There are not too many. I think we need just three tools, right? You just need your computer. You need what we call an IDE. You also need what we call Java self-installed in your system. So if you want to install Java, you are going to go to Google, and then here in the search bar, you are going to type in JDK, like maybe download, something like this. JDK download, depending on what your system is. And my system is 64-bit. I can choose this link, right? When you reach this link, you are going to click maybe this first one. Yeah, right? When you click this first one, you are going to be redirected into this page, right? And now currently we are having Java 17. It dates back into maybe earlier versions. You can search for the earlier versions in here. Where are the earlier versions? They are done somewhere in here. But then we have earlier versions, depending do you want them, but then I usually take the latest. As in now you can see we have Java 8, which is an earlier version, and then we also have Java 11. We also have Java 7 or 1.7, something like that. So they date back from there. But then what exactly is happening in here? I currently use Java 17, JDK 17. I already installed it. But then if you want to install it in here, you're just going to go into this part, this one, Java SE Development Kit, whatever. Choose your system, and then here we have Linux. I could choose Windows, right? And then in here I can choose any of these installers. If you want to install like this exe file, you can click in here, install with the exe file, or you can download the zip file, or you can also use the MSI file, depending on your compatibility. What do you prefer? You can choose any of this. And then when you download this, you can download the exe file, right? And then when you download it, you install it. You just install it like any other software. It is going to be installed in your system, and after installing it, then you can be able to do what we call setting a path for the Java development, or for the JDK. Setting a path for the JDK is very simple usually, but then as in my system, I think you can just go to Google. I'm just going to show you where you can find the information how to set a path. You can just go to google.com, and then in google.com you are going to say, type in how to set JDK path, in whatever system, right? Maybe you can choose Windows or something. They are going to tell you in this, but you are going to go to download or save or the appropriate JDK version, as we just talked about this one. You say right click computer icon on your desktop and select properties, and then you're going to click advanced system settings, and then you're going to click environment variables. Under user variables, click new, enter the Java home as the variable name. You must take note of this one, Java home. Do not like type in Java home as in small letters. You have to type in the Java home as in capital, like this one, and then enter the path to the JDK is where you installed it. Where you installed it, it should be you go to the folder or the Yes, the folder where you installed it. Look for the bin folder, right? You click on the bin folder and you right click on the bin folder, right? And then choose properties and then take the path there, the path of the bin folder where you installed your JDK. Then take it and then you paste it in this step number 7, right? You can reach into this site. You can just go to google.com and then click on this. It's just that I don't want to show it now, because when I click on it, I think it is going to give me problems with this recording. I think you understand when you try to play something online, it gives you copyright things or something, or copyright issues or something or whatever. So when I click on this, I think I'm going to get copyright issues. So but then what you're going to do, you're going to click in here and then follow the steps of installation. Otherwise, that is how you install JDK. So now after installing JDK, you need what we call the IDE. Let us go to google.com again, google.com, and then in this google.com, what you're going to type is Java Development IDE. Maybe let me say this like this. So what you're going to see in here, maybe let me just define an IDE first. An IDE, we say it is an integrated development environment. An integrated development environment, it is this software, or it is this program that you are going to be using to write your Java code. Meaning that in your system or in your computer, you need a software to be able to run your Java code. And that software that you're going to use to write your Java code is called an IDE, right? So we have a number of IDEs out there for us to run, to be able to write Java code. But the most popular ones, I'm going to be touching on them, on the most popular ones, which are these ones in here. We have Eclipse, which is one of the most popular Java IDEs on the market, as they are saying in here. We also have NetBeans, which is also one of the most popular one. More especially if you are going to run earlier versions of Java, right? Because it is good for running Java 8 and maybe the other ones. You can also run, because we have Apache NetBeans now, which can run Java 17 and other stuff, right? Excuse me. But then NetBeans is also good with programming. We also have IntelliJ IDEA. IntelliJ IDEA is the one that we're going to be using for this hands-on tutorial, right? Where we are going to see it. We also have BlueJ. BlueJ is also popular, but I've never used it. We also have Oracle J Developer, My Eclipse, Greenfoot. Greenfoot is used more especially if you want to program like GUIs most of the time, graphical user interfaces. Like if you want to program, let me say games, if you want to program games, video games, Greenfoot is good. And you also have JGraphs. But for this tutorial, I am going to be using IntelliJ. So what you can do, instead maybe of using IntelliJ, if you can't find IntelliJ, you can look maybe either of these ones, these two, NetBeans or Eclipse. Just try to download Eclipse or download NetBeans. Just go to oracle.com, search for Eclipse or search for NetBeans, and then try to download those ones. Otherwise, IntelliJ is something like this. I've IntelliJ installed in my system, as you can see here. So what happens is here, this is the, let me say, this is the new or the home page of the IntelliJ IDE, in where we are going to be programming our or in where we are going to be creating our code, right? So excuse me. For you to be able to use IntelliJ, you go to this new button and then you click the button on a new project, right? Where it says new project. You can maybe click create a new project, or you can create, or you can open an existing project, or you can also open a project that is maybe on a remote server. When I'm talking about a remote server, I'm talking about code that is not in your system. Maybe, for example, from a version control system like GitHub. I am going to have another tutorial about GitHub. If you don't know what GitHub is or what Git is, so we are going to have tutorials on it. We'll see what exactly Git is. But then you can choose it. Now I have chosen new project. So when we get into this stage, we are going to choose Java in here. If you are using the IntelliJ IDE, right? I'm going to choose Java, and then here you choose your SDK. If you have more than one SDK versions installed, they are going to be shown in here. And for mine now, I have SDK 17, which is the current one. You can also download it or edit if you have downloaded it and then it is saved somewhere. You can edit it in here. You can just click add JDK, and then it is going to direct you where to search it for it in your files. But then currently I have my 17, which is I am going to be using now. So you can maybe add libraries, but for beginners I think that's not necessary, right? So what we are going to do, we're going to click next. When you click next, it says create a project from a template. When you are talking about a template, we are talking about some code that is already created for you, right? For you to be able to do things faster. So I'm not going to choose create project from template because I want us to start everything afresh. Yeah, right? So what we are going to do now, we are going to be looking into what we're going to create. We are going to create a Hello World application, right? Or a Hello World program. A program that is going to greet the user, something like that. So maybe we are going to type in the Hello World. I think I don't have this program because I used to use NetBeans before, but then I installed IntelliJ, so my Hello World programs are not in here. So you are going to type in Hello World program, and then here you can type in your module names if you want, and then click finish. After clicking finish, IntelliJ is going to process for a few seconds. Processing, fixing, putting things together, connecting things, those that need to be connected, so that you can have your development environment, which is this environment now here, where I am now. This is where we call it the integrated development environment, right? So as you can see now, we have a number of screens in here, or a number of windows in this IntelliJ. We have this bar, the top bar, which we usually call the menu, or yes, we call it the menu. Where we find maybe a number of the tools that we are going to be using here, or it helps us to manipulate our code in here, because we are going to be typing code in this area, this big area here, which we call the editor pane or the editor window. So this bar helps us to manipulate this code that we are going to be typing in here. We also have this bar, this one usually we call it the toolbar, the toolbox. It usually shows tools that we are going to be using here. And then we also has this one, this sidebar, this one, the sidebar, this one. This is where we what we call in the display or the explorer of our project, right? This is where we see our anything that we are going to be doing in here. It is stored here. Maybe we have files and folders for our software, or in the maybe directories, or which we call packages. They are going to be displayed in this side on your left, but you can you can always move them around. You could say, oh, how does it fit for you? But I usually do it by default like this one, right? And then we have this one, the bars below here. This one, it is where usually it has this is the part that has what we call the output, right? When we are trying to run our code, you are going to see when we write something, we want you to test it. For example, we want to test it. This is where it is going to be displaying, and this is where we are going to be seeing problems, and this is where we can even have our tasks, right? We can schedule our tasks, what we want to do in our software, right? So for now, let us start with this, with our slides in here. In our slides in here, we're talking about a simple program like this one. Okay, we want to demonstrate a simple program like this, right? So for us to be able to to demonstrate a simple program, we're just going to go into our IntelliJ, and then in here we are going to right click in this folder, this one, the SRC folder. Even if you are using a NetBeans, you are going to have the SRC. Even if you are using Eclipse, you are going to have the SRC. You right click on this folder and then maybe create new Java class. You can create any kind of class in here, as you can see, but for now, because we are talking about Java in here, we are going to create Java class. And then the class in here, we said we want to give the class a name, right? And the name of our class for now, we are just going to call it main. But basically, a class must be the class's name. It must relate into what you want that class to do. For example, if you want that class to print, maybe to deal with students or to create students. If you want to create a class that is going to create students, right? You are going to name that class a student. Or if you want to create a class that is going to create employees, you are going to name that class employee. Or if you want to create a class that is going to create or accounts object, you are going to name that class account. I think you understand why do we call this. The name of the object should relate to the name of the class. For example, right? If it's dealing with students, it should be student. If it's dealing with accounts, it should be accounts. If it's dealing with whatever it is dealing with, you should name the class accordingly. And with Java, you must know this: the public class, as you can see here. Okay, we are going to talk about this shortly. But then the class name, the class that we have just created, is this one, the main class. As you can look into this, you can see it here. The file name is also main.java. Every file or every file that you create, every Java file that you create in Java programming, it should have this extension, the .java extension, right? That is what we use for this programming, or for this Java program. So let us get into business. But then I think if you are following along with me, I think by now you have downloaded and installed your Eclipse or your NetBeans or even your IntelliJ, right? But then if you didn't do so, I will request that you do it, because we want to do everything live in here, like hands-on. I want to do, when I do anything here, you just do it. You are going to learn faster, because there's a lot of things to how to grab in here. There's a lot of things, so some of the things I'm not going to touch on them, and for you to understand them, it is better to do this, so that when you do it, you are going to have problems, and then when you have problems, you try to research from Google, and then or you try to send me maybe questions. You can send me questions on the comments. After sending me those questions, you are going to be able to, I'm going to help you. So what I'm trying to say is, if you haven't set up your environment, please set it up. You can just pause the video, set up your environment, and then after you are sure everything is running, then we can start going with here. Just start going with me. So in this program, in this session now, we wanted to create a simple program, right? So excuse me, a simple program is this program that is going to run simply, as we say, a simple program. It's a program that's going to run. It may do anything, because a software is created to do things. We said programming is the art of telling the computer what to do. And now we want to create a simple program, right? So the program that we are going to be creating is a Hello World. We said this project is about a Hello World application. We want to create the user, right? We just want to create the user. So for us to create the user, we need to create, in here we have what we call in a class. As you can remember, this is what we call a class, and this class is the public class. When we say it's a public class, we mean in this scope here, this class can be accessed by any other class that we can create in here. I think we are going to understand that as we continue. But for now, we created this class, and we made it public. It means that in here it can be accessed by any other class that can be found in here. And this public class, because we have named it public in this file, the name of the class in Java programming, it must be the same as this name of the file, because we named it public. But if we want to create another class that has a different name with this one, we can have a class like this. Class number. Let me just say student, because I said classes must have this. We can have a class like this, because this one is no longer a public in here, so it is just a default class. It can be like private. You can call it private like this, or maybe protected or something. Oh, okay. Java is rejecting this one because I have now is rejecting the private. Anyways, but then you can have this class. But once you put the public in here, it is going to give you errors, right? But for this lesson, we are not going to be using this class, so I'm just going to delete it or remove it. We code everything inside classes in Java. We usually say Java is basically object oriented, meaning that everything in Java is an object, and every object that is in Java is created from a class. Right, so basically what I'm saying is everything that we're going to be coding in Java is going to be inside a class. I think we understand. You cannot just keep typing code in here, like say my name, something like this. No, this is wrong, right? Because this one is out of a class. You cannot type in code like that. So what we're going to do, we are going to get into this inside the class. How do we see that we are inside a class? We see by these two curly braces. Every time you create a class, you will have these two curly braces. That means it's a class, right? So your code must be within these two curly braces. If your code is outside these two curly braces, that means your code is outside a class, and you are going to get errors. We are going to see, or we are going to talk about errors later on and see what exactly are errors. But then for now, let us look into this. Okay. The simple program that we are going to be creating in Java, for us to have code that is running, we need what we call methods. And there is one main method that is the most important. Let me say, it's like a mother of the other methods in Java. Every class or every software you create in Java, it must have this one method that we call the main method. And for us to be able to declare that method, we just say public static void main, and inside, after typing this main, we open two parentheses. We call these parentheses the opening and closing bracket, called parentheses. Inside this, we are going to type this string, and then type this one x, and then put this to square brackets, and then after the closing parenthesis in here, you just open another curly brace, another pair of curly braces. I think now you can see that within here we said we are within a class, or we are inside a class, meaning that this method is inside a class. And now we have another curly braces. That means everything that we type in here is now inside a method. That method is inside a class. We are inside a method inside a class, right? So that is where we can be able to write code that is going to be understandable, or code that is going to run in our system. So we said that this program that we are creating is a program that is going to create the user, right? So for us to create the user in Java, we use what we call data syntax. There is this syntax. So I'm going to introduce these things as we are going along with the lesson, and then if maybe you have errors, or if you have problems, you can then just ask me in the comments, or maybe you can just send me an email or something. I think you are going to see my email in my account. My email is there. I think it is public. You're going to see it, and then you're going to send me, or you can just reach to my Facebook page. My Facebook page is like this. I'm going to show you the link. It's https facebook.com and then Free-Techno Enterprise. If you get into this page, if now I can click in here, if I can click control and click in here, it's going to go to Facebook. And then if you get into this page, you're going to send me your questions or your queries. I am going to attend to you if you cannot find my email. But if you are able to find my email address, then you can send me queries. Otherwise, you are any other queries, I think you are going to drop them in the comments. It is better you drop them in the comments so that I can be able to assist maybe as fast as I can. Otherwise, what we are talking about in here, we are talking about the syntax. That every syntax that is in here, if you do not understand anything I said, you are going to talk to me. But then the syntax that I'm going to introduce now is this system.out.println, like this, and then I open and close a parenthesis, and then in here I close. With this one, the semicolon is most important in the Java programming language, right? It is used for termination. Any statement that you create or any statement that you type in Java is going to have this, meaning that you have terminated that statement. You want to create another statement. So this system.out.print, basically what it does, I'm not going to maybe define or maybe explain everything within it, but what I'm going to tell you is what it does. What it does, this one, it helps you to print something out, right? When you want to call the program to print or to say something out, just now we want the program to greet a user. So what we are going to do, we are going to say to put whatever we want to print out inside these parentheses in here, like this. We are going to, because now what we want to print out, it is string. We are going to talk about strings and other data types. We're in the session where we are going to be talking about data types. But now I want you to understand that what we are going to be typing the word hello user maybe is called a string. A string is just simply text in Java programming. So we say it is called string. Because it is string, what we are going to be typing out, we need to enclose it inside two quotation marks. Double quotation marks, not a single quote, double quotation marks. The double quotation marks simply means that whatever you're going to be typing inside in here is going to be a string. So we are going to say hello user. Maybe let's just say welcome to programming, something like this, right? So now we understand that this is what we are going to be printing out, right? This is the message that we want to print out, and everything that is in here is the syntax of this language or of this Java programming language. Now we want to print it. We print this out, but then we have to write all of this so that we are able to print this out. I think you understand now. So for us to print this out now, this is a fully functional program. This program now that we have done, we have created a software now. Meaning that we have now started being programmers because we have created a software. This software can be able to print something out to us. I think you understand. So for us to be able to see it printing this out, we need to do what we call compilation. We need to compile this code and we need to run it. To compile this code is like telling the computer to check on this code. Is this code worthy for running? If this code is worthy for running, the computer is going to tell us, okay, the code is worthy for running, then we can be able to run. And when we run, we are going to see what we want to see. So for us to be able to compile this code, we are going to go, usually your any IDE that you are going to be using, it is going to have this button here. I said this menu here is this bar is the menu that helps us manipulate this code. Now we're going to use it. We are going to click on this run button, and then if for now, because I'm using IntelliJ, when I click run, my run in here is going to do both. It is going to compile and run. But sometimes if you are using another or a different IDE, you might have to compile first before running. I think we are going to see on here, but then usually you are going to click on the run or in the build button, where you are going to be compile or build, and then after building, and then you are going to go to run. Here the shortcut is Alt Shift F10. I'm just going to click run. When I'm clicking run, it's going to show me this small window. This small window is for me selecting the class that I want to run, and the class that I want to run now is this one. So I want to just choose this one, and then what it's going to do, it is going to start running and building the project. As you can see in here, down here it says build. It is building this project now, or what you can say, it is trying to compile it now. If the compilation is successful, I am going to see as my output, as I told you earlier when we started using the interpreter, that this bar here is where we are going to be seeing our output, and then it is going to tell us, let's see, our hello user, if the compilation or the building process was successful. If we had errors in here, we were not gonna be able to run or to compile this this code. I think you understand that one. So let us maybe wait for, let me say, maybe a few seconds while it is trying to build, because for the first time, as IntelliJ is a bit slower, maybe compared to other IDEs that I've been using. It's just that I like it, but then it's a bit slower than maybe NetBeans or something. So it is taking time. But then, as you can see, now we have our output. Hello user, welcome to program. So this is what we call in a program. Now we have run this program, right? It is running. This is what we call a program. It says hello user, welcome to program, meaning that we only typed, we have typed everything in here, but now we can see only this one. I think you understand. This is the only thing that is running. Hello user, welcome to programming in here. Okay, then we can maybe, this one is just a path telling us where exactly is this file and how is it running. I think you understand. But then what we are looking for, what we are concerned about is this, right? So now let us continue with our program so that we understand. So we can add another statement in here. Now I'm going to use shortcuts because before I typed this out, but now I'm going to use shortcuts. So we can add another statement in here. This is the same thing. I want to add another statement. I'm going to say maybe, how are you, my beautiful user, right? As you can see, this second statement, it is a prompting statement, right? It needs the user to have a response, right? It needs our user to have a response, right? Let us see, can we be able to run that? As you can see, now we have this button here, this green button. Usually in any IDE that you are going to be using, you will have some green button like this, and when you hover over it, it is going to say run. So instead of running maybe from here, now clicking here and running here, I am just going to use this button for now. Click this button so that I can see what is exactly now is the output. Let us wait maybe another 2 seconds or something so that it builds, because you said when we're using IntelliJ is going to build and compile and run at the same time. Maybe other IDEs are going to give you the space to compile before you run. As you can see, now we have this. How are you, my beautiful user? Right? So what does this mean? It means now the computer is prompting us to reply back. So let me try to reply. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening, right? So what is happening is we need to put in code in here so that we can be able to reply. So let me just go back into this. What is it? We said we've just written a simple program, right? But now we need what? We need what we call reading input and output. the program. The output is what we have just seen, which we just said, how are you? But then now we need to read an input. The input is what we are going to, as users, we are going to give to the computer so that the computer can be able to understand us back. So we are now we want to communicate with the computer, because a software is meant to be able to communicate with the user, right? Any software or any computer program that you make, it is meant to be able to communicate with the user. So now we need to be able to read the input. So how do we read input in Java? That's where the question lies. So how do we read input? For us to be able to read input, we need also to introduce another syntax. I'm going to click in here and then click enter and then introduce another syntax. This syntax is I need another object that is built in. Usually when we program in Java, there is this code that we call packages and the classes that are already there for us to use. We do not code everything in Java, but we have code that has been there, that has been created by other programmers out there for us to use, so that we can be able to come up with programs or computer softwares a bit faster, right? So this code is going to be this syntax that I'm going to introduce to you now. This one is going to be called scanner, like this, and this scanner is going to be a user input. I'm just going to call it user input, like this, and then I'm going to use a keyword which is called new, and then a new, and then I'm going to choose scanner. As you can see, IntelliJ is a auto completing for me, and then inside inside this parentheses, I'm just going to type in system.in, and then I terminate this statement. As you can see here, what happened is when I typed in the scanner in here, then this IDE or IntelliJ then imported it for me. Where it imported it, this is the package that has got what we call the code that is already there created for me, so that I can be able to type in faster. Because if this code was not in here, I was the one who was going to write in this class. That is the scanner class. This class which I need to take in the user input, right? So I was going to write in this class and then myself, and then if the class maybe takes me an hour to create this class, then I was going to waste an hour trying to create this class before I continue with my program. I think now you understand why do we have a pre-built code for us. So for now, I think you are going to understand what's it. This is just a class. This one, the scanner class. In Java, when you want to use a class, you need to introduce the class. For now, just take it like this. We need to introduce this class, declaring it like this, and then giving it an object name, and then initializing it. We say this is initializing it. You are declaring the class in here, and then giving it an object name, and then now we are initializing it. Initializing it is like assigning the class what exactly do you want that class to be, or that object to be, as in here. This object, I'm calling it an object because it's just a name that I created for this scanner class, right? An object is anything, is any name. It can be any kind of name or that you choose as the programmer that you create for that particular class. For example, this class, this scanner class, is just like our class that we created here. If we were to use this main class in a different session or in a different environment, I would just call it like this. I would just use this main, and then choose any object name like here, just like main like this, and then new main like this, something like this. So you can see this main, new main. This is how we use all classes in Java. I think now you understand what is happening here by me referring to this one. So, but this one, as you can see, it takes in some arguments inside in here, the scanner class. takes in some arguments and see it side here. It happens in what we call constructors. We are going to talk about it later when we talk about methods and constructors. What exactly these arguments do in here, what exactly do they do, we're going to talk about it later. But then now, this is what we needed for us to be able to take user input, because now what we're doing, we're trying to take user input. The user input is this process in which we are going to be typing things back into the computer, because now the computer has asked us, right, how are you my beautiful user? So I need you to be able to answer back. So for me to answer back, what I need what we call in a variable, right? So that is when we introduce what we call variables. Variables, we say these are words. I'm going to call words for that, so that everybody can understand. I'm going to call words. These are words, or simple words that we use to store certain values. Words that we use to store maybe some values in there, right? I know that there is this professional definition of variables that we use as programmers, but for beginners, it is better to take it like this, right? These are, I don't know what's happening here, excuse me, but it's not important, because this one we call it a comment. I think if you have been watching some of my tutorials, I've been talking about comments, but then basically a comment is something that the compiler is not going to read. So we in this comment type part, we can type anything. We do not need the syntax, we do not need anything. You can type anything anyhow, and then the compiler is not going to read it. I think you understand now. So we say variables are words that we use to store some values. Why do we have to store values in programming? The fact that we are programming, we need to, some values can be used more than once. For example, this user input in here. This user input here holds a value of this scanner. That is why I call it an object. It holds a scanner object, right? So we can use it more than once. So a variable acts exactly like this one. A variable also is created from a class, right? So this variable that I'm going to create now is a string variable. So remember when we talked about strings, I said we are going to be talking about strings. We said strings are text. This thing in here, this is a text. So we wanted the user to reply with some text. Excuse me. So what you're going to type in here, we're going to type the keyword string, like this one, string, and then give a variable name. The variable name is named just like the object name. You choose any name that relates to what you want to do. And now I want the user to be responsive, so I wanted to name it a response like this, and then string response. And then the syntax here is simple. What you do, you use the object now, the object that we created in here. We're going to say string response, and then we initialize it to the object, which is the user input, like this one. And then after initializing it to the user input, we're going to click the period, and after the period, we're going to type next line, this one. It means this one is accepting a line of text. That is why we're saying next line. This is used with strings. We're going to look into this one in depth when we talk about data types. Which how does this one and this relate? We're going to look into it when we talk about data types. But now this is how the program goes. This is how our program goes. I think you can see it. So maybe let me now run it, so that you can be able to see what exactly can we be able to do. How can we interact with this program? To run it, you are going to go to here and then just click this one. There's the run button, so that you can see our code or our software, because we are creating a software in here, right? So we want to see what does the software do now. We are going to be interacting with this often, right? So you are going to be running most often. And now, as you can see, it says, hello user, welcome to programming. How are you, my beautiful user? If you can remember previously, when we are at this stage, the program was going to say process completed or process finished, and then gives us some code. But then now it is not finished. You can see in here it is still running. This button, stop button, means that the program is still running. Basically, it is waiting for us to enter a value. If I can click in here, you can see that the cursor now is blinking, waiting for me to reply, right? To reply to the computer. And what I can say to the computer now, I am going to say, I am fine. This is what we call in a reply, or taking in input from the user into the computer. If I click enter here, now you can see it says process finished, and you can see in here that the process has now finished. So now we can be able to print out some text or to the user, and then taking that text back into the computer. I think now you can understand what do we mean when we say reading input and output. Output is giving our user the text or whatever we want them to do, and then taking input is this part when we are replying back into the computer. I think now you understand. So then now, if there are things in here that you do not understand, maybe that you are finding so hard to understand, what I will advise you to do is to pause this video here now, right? And then when you pause this video here, go back maybe where we started creating this class. Go back, rewind it to where we started creating this class, right? Start afresh. Do this up until you understand. You can type anything in here, be changing these things, these strings, change it maybe to something else, change it to something else, changing to something else, and then taking your responses, and then see now you are good with the reading and the outputting information into a computer. Because basically what we have just done now, we have created a fully functional software. This is a software. Excuse me. This is a software, and this software can be able to create our users, can be able to. It's a basic software. So now what it does, it creates our users. Right? So we have created a fully functional software, but then we need to grow our software into something big. Right? We are going to be growing our software using the syntax or the concept of this language, the Java programming language, so that you are going to understand a number of things which we are going to be introducing per session in our programming language. So now, let us jump into identifiers. What exactly are identifiers, right? We need to be able to understand what exactly are identifiers. So I'm going to close this one. So identifiers, I can also close this. Yes, identifiers, we say those are the names, or those are the namings or the words that we use to name things in here when we wanted to name things. Because I said we create when we wanted to take user input, we created this, and I called it a variable. In fact, this is a name of the scanner, of this text, not scan, of this scanner object, of this text object. This name is an identifier. I think you understand. This is an identifier of the variable, low response, this response. An identifier can also be this, the main, this function or this method. In Java we call them methods, but in other languages they are called functions. Methods like this. This is a method, this one. So the main method in here, this name, the main, the word main is an identifier. Even in a class, here, this is a class, right? This is class, maybe let me just say class. This one is an identifier, right? It tells us the name of the class, right? It tells us the name of the class, right? I said Java is an object-oriented language. Everything that you are going to be running, or every code that you are going to be running, it must be within a class. A class, we have said it's a blueprint. How do you write blueprint for creating objects? Blueprint for creating objects. Blueprint for creating objects. But then this class is not creating objects. I think it's going to mislead you. You can use this example, because I said this is a class, this scanner class. We said it's a class, and this is an object, meaning that this object is created from this class. If you can create an object of the main class, then you can answer it. As I was making an example of this student class, I said we can have a class like this, student, right? And then when we want to create a number of students, maybe 20 students, we are just going to be using this class like this here. Let me just comment out something and then type create students, right? And then here I'm just going to just use this very same thing, this one, the very same thing that we did with the main class before. You can check it back on when you have forgotten. But what we are doing here is just going to say student, give it the object name. Maybe my student is going to be John. How do you write John? And then going to name new student like this. This is how we create students. We can create a number of students. Maybe student Alice. I'm going to call the new student. Even if we have 1,000 students in a university, we can just do this. But then we have what you call concepts, or maybe structs, that help us not to be typing everything again and again. For example, if we have 1,000 students, this can be tedious. I think you understand. So we need to find a way. In Java programming, we have structs that helps us to achieve this without maybe having to write this again and again. I think we are going to be talking about this. But what I was demonstrating in here is that this definition, a blueprint for creating objects. This blueprint, the class, this student class, we have made it a blueprint for creating a number of students. I think now you understand what we mean when we say a class is a blueprint for creating objects. So otherwise, I was talking about the identifiers. We said identifiers are these ones. These are identifiers, identifying what object are we creating or what variable are we creating. Now we are creating a response or from the string class or whatever. So those are identifiers. So maybe let us excuse me, we need to start looking into what we call in data types, right? We need to talk about data types. Remember, I said when I put in this two forward slashes, I am creating a comment. A comment, I said it is that code that I'm writing that the compiler is not going to read. For example, if we can go back into here, you can see that I typed these words, but they are not showing in here. The compiler did not read this one. It only read this and this and these ones because I didn't comment them. The ones that I commented, the compiler did not read them. There are many strategies of commenting code in programming, but then I'm going to introduce them as we continue with the lesson, right? But now, for now, just understand that this is a comment, right? So let us talk about data types. Data types. Each and every data that we are working with in a program, we need to classify it. We give it a class, or we categorize it into a certain type of class, right? So, for example, here the data that we are taking in here, the response. It's a string. Why is it a string? Because when the user types in here, he types in I am fine. He's not going to type in numbers like this 1 2 3 4, but he's going to type in something like this, string. So this data type is different from this one, or from, yes, this one is different from this, because here you are typing words but here we are typing numbers. So in Java we have different number of data types. I think if you can take it maybe a bit by bit, we have a different number of data types. In fact, there are around 6, the primitive ones, and then we then have our own data types. Our own data types are those data types that we create from our classes. That which classes which are what we call user defined classes, like this student. We can have a data type from the student, right? A data type of student is going to be the student. We can create a student like student, as we did the array one, student span one, student John, and then give them whatever. That's a user defined data type. But then the primitive data types are around 6. We have what is called strings. This is very important. Strings. Let me just call string. We have integers. We call them integers, but I'm going to type in int because we usually use the word integer. We are going to be using integer when we are doing some deep stuff. For now, let us take in int. We are going to be using int. We have what we call boolean. We have what we call float. Maybe double. We also have what we call boolean, float, double, and what else do we have in Java programming? Data types. Where my slides are. Data types. So the objects, yes, we can have objects. We can have a number of them. As I said, there are around 6, the primitive ones, and then the other ones are those that we create ourselves. So what happens in here? Excuse me. So what happens in here is each and every data that we are going to be using in here must be of any of these data types in here, right? Meaning that we can take in integers, we can take in booleans, we can take in float, we can take in doubles, we can take objects. So maybe let us explain each and every one of these, maybe just a bit, so that you can understand. A string, we said, let me just type it like this. String, we said this one takes in text, right? This one takes in text. I think you are going to recall that. Why am I getting errors in here? It is because this one, the compiler can be able to see this, because I didn't comment it. Instead, I commented before, after it here. So the compiler now can see it. And in Java, this one is not. This is what it is out of its programming rules. We do not program like this. You don't just type anything anyhow. There is this what we call syntax, or the concept of programming. So you don't just type anything anyhow. As you can see now, I'm having errors, but I'm not going to be running this code, so I'm just going to let it be. So we have the string which says text. Text is going to take in text values as we've been typing. We have this int. Int, we say it is going to take in numbers or integers. A number is just a value like this one, 1, 2, 3, something like this. That's a number, right? Any value there, anywhere that you are going to be using numbers, or that you are going to be working with numbers in your code or in your program, then what you need to do, you need to use is int instead of the string. For example, in here, if you wanted to take in a number from the user, for example, if you wanted to ask the user, how old are you? We expect the user to say, I'm 14 years old. That means we need to take in a number, right? So that is how we type in. We type in int in here. But as you can see, we are having errors. Why are we having errors? This error is coming from this. Because we used the number in here, we need to use next int instead of next line here. I think that is going to help you whereas you are going to be trying a number of things in your code. So instead of next line in here, you just need to type in next int like this, and then the error is going to be gone. So now what is going to happen in here, if I can comment everything in here like this, so that I want to run, because my compiler is going to give me errors. I want to run now. Let me run. I'm using shortcut, which is Shift F10, then to run. If I comment everything and try to run, as you can see now it is building. I want to show you that now I'm going to be inputting numbers instead of strings in here, right? So you are going to understand it. What's the difference between string and integers? Now when it says how are you, okay, it says how are you because we still have how are you in here. That is why it says how are you. But then we want to print we want to take in numbers. We're going to take in 4, 5, something like this, then hit enter, and then now we are able to take in numbers. If we can take in numbers instead of strings, or if we can take in strings instead of numbers, we could get an error. For example, the program can crash. For example, if you know this, if you are using a mobile application, usually some mobile applications, it happens when you are running them or when you are using them, it is going to tell you, hey, program name has stopped working. I think you have seen a situation like that. When it says maybe you are using Google Chrome, it says Google Chrome has stopped working or is not functional or anymore. Usually what happens there, it is these errors when you are supposed to insert maybe numbers, but then you chose to insert a string like this, and then you are going to get something like this, exception. This is what we call the crashing of the program. The program crashes. When it crashes, if this was a GUI application, or if it was a windowing application, or if it was a mobile application, the user now was going to receive the message that the program or the create user program has stopped functioning. I think that now you will understand why you usually has those programs that when you are trying to use them, they say program so and so has stopped working, right? Usually this is one of the reasons that's why the programming has decided to stop, or we call it has crashed. You have crashed the program because you have tried to insert string in here, and you had to use in numbers. A string, I said the string is something like your name, for example. Now we are taking numbers in here, but then when you type in my name is John, like this, my name is Freeman. When I click enter, it is going to crash. What it expected in here was in numbers. It wants me to type in numbers like this. When I type numbers, the program is not crashing. I think you see. So for now, I think we have covered a lot when it comes to the basics of Java programming. We have introduced what is a computer, we've introduced what is programming, we've introduced programming languages, how do they relate maybe with the computer, and then how do they relate with creating a software, with giving ourselves softwares that we want, or telling the computer what to do. We also introduced Java. We said Java is a high-level programming language. When I say high-level programming language, basically we mean a language that us computers can be able to read. It doesn't mean we can understand it, but we can be able to read. It's more like it's English. Sometimes you can read English words without understanding them, right? So when you say high-level programming language, we basically mean that we can be able to read, to understand. And the uses of Java, we said Java can be able to use it in mobile development, in website development. We also talked about IDEs. We talked about IntelliJ, NetBeans, Eclipse, BlueJ, JGraphs, Greenfoot, number of IDEs. I think you can remember or you can recall. We also introduced ourselves into a simple program. We created a program which created the user. We also did taking a user input. We read input from the console screen. We also talked about identifiers. We said these are the names of the variables that we're creating or the objects that we're creating. These ones, this is an identifier, this is an identifier, this is an identifier. Identifiers are those names. This one is an identifier. I think you understand. So the names of the things that we are going to be using in the program, we say those are identifiers. So I think I will have to cut this video here now, so that we can start we can continue with our data types, because I was just making I was just making a clarification between the string and the integer data type. So now you understand what is string, what is an integer, and how do they relate with our program. When you want to take in string, you are going to define a string in here, and then you are going to take a string. And then when you want to take in an integer, you are going to define an integer in here, and then you are going to take in an integer type of data, right? But then we also have a number of data types: boolean, float, and doubles and objects, which we are going to cover in a coming tutorial. So for now, please support the channel by subscribing, sharing it with your friends in your social medias, and then liking. Liking is the most important. Subscribe, like, and you can also even comment. Leave your comments in below. I said if you have any queries or if you need any special attendance, just let me know. I will find time and I will make sure that I help you. I give you what you can to get started with the programming career. Otherwise, thanks for watching and thanks for supporting the channel. I will see you in the next tutorial, which is going to be a bit long like this one. Thank you.